How's the subject?
Sustainable, but not reachable for some reason.
Unreachable? Where could she be? I thought the trigger would be perfect. Also, stop going trigger happy. You almost killed them. Both her and Lenova. Oh, and who are you? Are you trying to free her? Oh, Zelzat. You know decapitation doesn't work on me. You should have known this from the theater. Oh shit, the theater! Do you think that where she might be?
There's a possibility that girl with the flag on must have taken her again. Let's go, Retzika. Did he ever tell you why I'm here?
No.
You know that stripe on Asriel's shirt, right? I believe that if she collects all 6 colors, then she might actually destroy the commentary community.
What? No, you're fucking cheffing me. Where's your proof? What the fuck is this some scrambled shit?
She is awakened. And so, when her recently released commentary, it shook and destroyed the chain, adding more than 29 videos.
What's wrong with big chains? Big chains are fun.
Probably. But if the chain gets too big, then it might become another blob.
What, you mean the thing that killed the holy duck?
Yes, and if the chain gets bigger, or even merges them together, the blob will consume everyone, or make another monster. And remember what happened to Charlie and Amanda?
Don't remind me, please.
Yes, but there are also additional motives for why I'm here.
Oh? And what's that?
To kill every commentator who has used a copyrighted character as an avatar.
Oh god, my head. Where am I? A theater. I wonder why I'm here. I wonder why there's a vanilla wait, I said this already. Why am I here? And how did I even get here? Wait, is it this theater? A video? Guess I'll watch. Well, why not go back to my roots and commentate on this like the last time? Wait, the last time? Probably not important. Okay, so remember the video I made last year? The worst commentary I made that year? Well, apparently, while in hibernation, Keyblade Master covered me. Then Umbrus covered that in a compilation. Key responded. Umbrus did again. But before this becomes a Nicholas C. Miranda and Halo fan situation, Paradox responded. And now I'm here. Back for where this all started, from me covering Shio Kami covering Pentagram's apology. And yes, this entire chain started due to a fucking intro skit. And no, Pentagram and Shio Kami do not appear at all. Thank God.
Am I the only one who finds this complaint to be really petty? Like, if you think about it, the theater does work since you can't imagine Asriel watching the video within the theater.
You know, this point would be pretty solid if it weren't for one insignificant detail. Asriel herself brings attention to the setting within her intro skit. So it wouldn't exactly be petty of me to question why Asriel's at the location if she herself fails to inform the audience on why she's at the current location.
But Key, you failed to notice how Asriel herself questioned why she was in the theater in the first place.
Oh, a theater! Kinda makes you wonder what I'm gonna talk about, eh? So, wonder why I'm here.
So yeah, it is petty for you to mention this because it's unimportant that doesn't affect Asriel's intro skit overall. Another thing I noticed is how you say Asriel acknowledged the design was insignificant, which destroys your argument since insignificant implies that said detail was meaningless and not worth taking into consideration, which destroys your argument entirely.
You know, this point would have been so great if it weren't for one tiny problem. The fact you're basically doing a I'm right when you're wrong type of argument. You're trying to prove that your target is not correct in his statement, and the fact that you're right on your point.
What kind of backwards logic? I'm sorry, but I think you failed to mention is that logic can be applied to literally every point in every commentary ever.
Honestly, I know you're trying to defend Asriel over here, but old Goatmeat over here didn't do a good job in how she got into this theater in the first place in terms of what Keyblade said. I mean, she gotta explain why she's in the theater, and Keyblade already proved that in this case that she didn't explain well.
Why? I don't need to explain a 15-paragraph essay about the logic of someone randomly appearing in a place nobody knows about, including the characters. Also, something you nor Key never mention is the fact that stories can leave stuff unexplained. Not to mention that at the time, I have never made a story commentary ever. And still haven't. Yeah. Here, can anyone hear me? Can anyone hear me? This is me, Asriel Gurrin. It's September 31st of 2025. I've been here. There's just an explosion at the Black Borders Matter building, and an explosion just happened. But I guess more details on me. I think on September something in 2025, I released a video in the commentary district, and I need to expand upon a point that I made, because I remember there being a video that talked about it where a person called Reverse Asriel talked about another person, Amanda, who died. And he wanted to send a post point to whoever is doing it in order to mark off the point system, because there's actually self-contained stories that are episodic and do keep plot elements throughout the entire show, while everything else is episodic, like the entire Precure series or Korolioko. I don't know why I'm saying this in a recording for documentation, but please someone help me. Someone.
But that point you just made earlier is rather perplexing in the fact that you're trying to defend your target's case and not, defending yourself in the matter. Oh boy, I'm gonna have a field day with this video, aren't I?
But in this scenario, Umbris isn't defending me. She's defending herself from Keyblade because he's misinterpreting what she's saying.
Hell, your idea about her watching the video at the theater would have been a great way for her to incorporate the setting into the commentary. But she never does anything like that within her video, instead opting to kill a bunch of strangers. Which makes me realize, how did Asriel not get kicked out of the theater for loudly murdering a bunch of people? Since last time I checked, but being loud isn't something that's tolerated in a theater.
My first issue with this point is that you are trying to apply real-world logic to a situation that is purely fictional, and is more than likely nonsensical for the sake of comedy, which is ironic coming from you because you're known for basically the same thing. I have no idea why you felt the need to point this out, since it's again really petty. Also, being loud in a theater isn't tolerated, but murdering is? That sounds a bit weird, doesn't it? Since murdering someone is a way bigger crime than simply being loud in a movie theater.
Oh my god, you do realize that regardless of what setting, whether it be in reality or not, being loud in a theater is still a bad thing. I mean, would you want to deal with a bunch of people talking in their phones out loud while you're still watching a movie? No! It's still a bad experience for anybody to watch a movie. And there are a bunch of people being loud pricks and not, respecting the rules in the theater.
Are you trying to justify murder?
Okay, I'll give you a pass that murder is a bigger crime than, being loud in a theater, but...
Oh, okay, then never mind.
My god! At this point, you're just grasping straws at this point to prove he's wrong and you're right.
Grasping for flaws. Care to give any elaboration, because last time I checked, the fact that Keyblade misinterpreted Umbris's point twice now literally doesn't seem like they're grasping. They're hand-holding.
Oh no! Oh no!
It is time.
Oh no!
Is there anything wrong with defending me? Are you going to explain? Also, subjectivity at its finest considering how people look at storytelling.
And going into the production side of these characters, it's probably not the best idea to have characters that sound exactly like you. Like, I'm willing to give Reverse Asriel a pass since there's a bit of an audio effect in place to establish some difference from you, but Flygon, no distinction at all. Just making this all come off as you talking to yourself, which would actually make for a somewhat decent psychological thriller in the hands of a competent writer. Now sure, you could just chalk this up to me looking too deep into an intro.
I know you're trying to speed up the footage just to get your point across, but my god, this is just padding at best and it's unnecessary.
Speeding up footage to back up your point is both unnecessary and padding. Speeding up is padding. It's not just padding, but literally speeding it up. And it's not unnecessary because you yourself said that it's helping Umbris's point with vital context of the situation at hand.
I think you're missing the point of what I was trying to say. As I wasn't saying it's a problem for someone to voice two characters that are talking to one another, I was more so pointing out how Flygon and Asriel have the exact same voice as one another, which in all of your examples isn't an issue, considering that despite those characters being voiced by the same voice actor, they all have some differentiation to distinguish themselves from one another, such as Luigi having a much higher pitch than Mario, and Mario having a much lower pitch from Waluigi. So when these characters are in the same area as one another, then them talking to each other sounds like two different people having a conversation, instead of one guy just talking to himself.
I want you to keep all of this in mind, but for now I'll attempt to argue this point. The way you worded your original point made it sound like you were saying having two characters with the same actor was a bad thing when it inherently isn't an issue. As I said with Polnareff and Risotto, the voice actor finds ways to distinguish themselves from each other when they are talking to themselves, which you basically go on to regurgitate, which makes this entire interjection feel pointless if I can be honest.
Paradox is gonna take that text and fucking beat you with it. She was explaining her original point. Why don't you get it?
Oh yes, all the VAs do distinguish their voices dependent on the character, and that definitely is something Asriel can do.
On second thought, I guess I didn't need to make my last interjection, considering you yourself pointed out what my main point was. Like, I'm about that how you write your point, then add something in that hurts the point you're trying to get across. What is this, a presidential debate? God help us all if it is.
Well then, I guess this just proves my previous point, since I question why you kept your previous interjection in, since when you cut back I say something that completely destroys your argument. If anything, my point was similar to the point you just made, and again, the way you phrased your original point made it sound like having a voice that is practically the same between two characters is a bad thing. I failed to see where you're coming from throughout this video.
Gee, and I thought I'm the only walking paradox in this contact community.
Oh no,
Oh no, I gotta do what I gotta do. Oh no, I gotta do what I gotta do. Oh no, I gotta do what I gotta do. I gotta do what I gotta do. I gotta do what I gotta do. I'll be back. I gotta hunt a bitch down. I gotta do what I gotta do. I'm sorry. I'll be back. I gotta do what I gotta do. I gotta do what I gotta do. I gotta do what I gotta do.
You didn't elaborate on anything. If this was a joke statement or for the sake of a joke, then what even was it? Because I certainly didn't get it. Now, I know this might seem subjective, but like, aside from that, what are you even covering that statement for? What is the issue? Please explain, because...
But I don't see why it's a problem if Asriel and Flygon have the same voice, other than it has no filter. Now, before someone twists my words, yes, people don't always watch commentaries, and I am aware that those listening can get confused on who's supposed to be who. But even then, he doesn't even elaborate on how Asriel can improve in this aspect.
Pause.
Oh, that frame though. Yeah, I'm gonna play the footage of what I got right here so you'll know what I mean.
But even then, he doesn't even elaborate on how Asriel can improve in this aspect.
Yeah, you should just inspect that with a fine-tuned comb before publishing this video, Umbris.
Okay, now you're blaming someone for something they didn't even fucking do. Because you want to know what? Umbris wasn't the person who let that in. It was Keyblade. Umbris' segment in the chain was finished and was moving on to her next topic, and since Keyblade was already covering that one segment, it got cut off, poorly if this is considered. And now I'm wondering, how the fuck did this chain get so big after one segment in one video discussing a segment? How big is this chain? Oh my fucking god.
And secondly, I don't elaborate on how Asriel can improve on this aspect. Umbris, you do realize that sometimes there are times when the piece of critique can be pretty simple and not require that much elaboration. And I think the advice of don't have your characters sound exactly like you is one of those pieces of critique where while elaboration is nice, the point is simple enough for someone to understand it without the elaboration.
Actually, that isn't entirely true, since Asriel mightn't necessarily know how to distinguish the voices of her characters from one another. You could have easily mentioned training her voice so she could do other voices, getting other people to voice the characters, doing what I did for Wilter and use text-to-speech, actually use filters, etc. Every one of these options has their own pros and cons, but it helps out Asriel so much since she knows what she could do to distinguish her characters from one another. Elaboration could get you a long way, and while some points can speak for themselves, this is far from one of them.
I know you're trying to make a point across, but you know the old saying, simplicity at its finest, or simple is best? Because, let's be frank, you don't have to elaborate too much if you wanna tell somebody to do this properly.
Yes, but her point was that he didn't elaborate at all. And in the end of the segment you played, she already brought up the idea that in some cases, elaboration isn't needed. And right after said that in this case it is. So this interjection is... And with that, I'm done. Okay, final thought. So, you know the fact that this video was made in less than a day would be a really big indicator on how it was, but good god, from you misinterpreting what Umbris has said to literally blaming her for stuff Keyblade did, this video is just bad. Really, really bad. First, now, I actually won't go on your voice, because even though you did make this in less than a day, I'm actually really surprised in how scripted you were, and how, like, professional and unmumblingness you were. Wait, actually, I thought I killed Reverse here. How did she survive?